Hello, everyone. I am Michael Hingson, the host of Unstoppable Mindset, and today we get to chat with Dr. Joi Lewis, who is a Minnesotan at this point, although she's been in other places as well, and she has a pretty interesting story to tell that has taken her across, I think, a lot of different lines of dealing with some things, and I'm going to let her talk about all that. But for right now, Joy, I want to welcome you to Unstoppable Mindset. We're really glad you're here.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
So let us go ahead and start. Why don't you talk a little bit, if you would, about kind of the early Joy growing up and all that? That's always a fun place to start.
Yeah.
Might as well start at the beginning.
Yeah. So I grew up in East St. Louis, Illinois, not to be confused with St. Louis, Missouri, which is just across the bridge.
Right. So, yeah, so tell us about you growing up and what it was like, and, maybe how some of that shaped what you did later.
Yes. So um, I grew up, I was born to two amazing human beings. My mother and my father. My mother was from Lexington, Kentucky, and my father grew up in East St. Louis. My mom passed away when I was 7 months old.
Oh.
So my dad raised us. I was 7 months. My brother was one and my sister was four. And my parents were very young. They were like 28. So it
Mm,
was a little bit of a tumultuous start, but
yeah. What happened to your mother? What caused her to pass
she had
away?
cancer.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
No,
So you were born in East St. Louis and you grew up there, or did you relocate at all while you were growing up, or what?
I did. I not until grad school I left and went to Iowa State University
Hmm.
in Ames, Iowa.
Okay. What made you choose that?
It was a because I decided to go into higher education, student affairs to become an administrator on college campuses. And they had one of the best programs in the country. So that's why I went.
Okay. So, but you went through high school and everything in East St. Louis.
Yes. Lincoln
Hmm.
Senior High School. Yes.
So you certainly had a little bit of a tumultuous start to your life with your mom passing and all that.
Yeah.
How did all of that work out for you? I mean, that had to be a little bit tough, but
It
you
was
had
tough, but my dad raised us along with my grandmothers. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother lived just about 30 minutes from us, and my maternal grandmother lived in Lexington, Kentucky. We would spend the summers there. But I had a very big extended family, so that made a big difference. My mother passed away when my grandmother passed away in 1993. She had 33 grandchildren and 44 great grandchildren.
my goodness. That's a
Yeah, so we were
that's
a
a
big
lot, isn't
family.
it?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was great to grow up with all those cousins.
Yeah. Well, so what kind of interests did you have in while you were in high school? What sort of interests did you
I was
develop?
really into singing and to speaking.
Uh-huh.
And so I wanted to be an opera singer. I used to compete in correct in opera in high school. I competed throughout the state. I would often get first superior. So I was very interested in singing. And I was also on the speech team.
Mm. So did you participate then in debates and those sorts of things, being on the speech team?
Um I did more humorous and some extemporaneous, not so much debate.
Ah, okay. Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, with all of that, what made you decide that you wanted to go into college administration and so on?
Well,
That's quite a different career and set of objectives than speaking and or singing. So,
yeah, I had a hard time at first in college, and I had a mentor, Dr. Constance Rockingham, who was the dean of students in at my undergraduate institution. She became my mentor and she got me. So then I was like, how do you get this job? So um got me interested in it was like a career of like really never having to leave college,
Hmm.
which was great.
That's an interesting way to put it. And I guess that does make some sense. Um,
Hmm.
so you got a bachelor's degree. Did you get any advanced degrees beyond bachelor's?
Yes, I got a master's in higher education and a doctorate in higher education as well.
Okay. So did you do all of that at the University of Iowa?
No, I did the master's at Iowa State and I did my doctorate at the University of Pennsylvania.
Ah, okay. Go.
Mhm.
So, so back at the University of Pennsylvania, did you go to any football games? I just had to say that.
No, I'm not a football fan.
I've never been to a football game in my life, and you know what? I guess
I'm a
it'd be interesting.
basketball fan, but not a football fan.
Well, and I haven't been to any basketball games either. I've been to some baseball games.
Mm.
It just hasn't worked out to be able to go to either one. But there's still time. Maybe one of these days I will go to basketball and or football. But I
Yeah.
do think college football is a whole lot more fun than professional football, but that's
Yeah.
another story.
I think college sports in general are more fun.
Yeah, they're getting too monetized as well, though, which is a little bit unfortunate. But I still agree there's a lot more spirit and they're a lot more fun to
Yeah.
deal with.
Yes. And they work really hard. So I think it should be some monetization.
Hmm. Well, so you got
Tell me
your
about
doc.
Unstoppable. How did you decide on that name?
I looked. Well, I was thinking about it when um, I was organizing the podcast, and um, I I heard some people using the word, although I think it's gotten a lot more use and maybe more than it needs since then. But it just seemed like that would be a great title for a podcast. So the
Hmm.
overall title, in fact, is really Unstoppable Mindset, where inclusion, diversity, and the unexpected meet. And it's worded that way
Hmm.
because if you talk to most of the diversity experts in the world, they talk about diversity relating to race, gender, sexual orientation, and so on, but they don't deal with disabilities.
Hmm.
And so the fact that they're not inclusive in that regard caused me to think about, well, what does that really mean? And that really means that they're not as diverse as they ought to be. So
Hmm.
we started Unstoppable Mindset with the idea that inclusion comes first, because if you're not inclusive, then you're not including disabilities. And some people say, well, we're partially inclusive. And my response is, no, you're not inclusive. You either are
Yeah.
or you're not. There's
Yeah.
no middle ground. And so it's inclusion, diversity, and the unexpected. Now, the unexpected is anything that doesn't relate directly to inclusion or diversity, which is really most things.
Hmm.
So, not every podcast is a discussion of inclusion or diversity. Most aren't. So, the
Right.
unexpected is anything that doesn't have to do with inclusion or diversity.
Hmm.
So, it's a lot of fun.
Nice.
Keeps us out of trouble.
And I would say the unexpected. Um, a year in July of 2025, July 5th of 2025, I survived a massive stroke,
Oh my
which
gosh.
impacted my left side. So I have some left side paralysis. So disability is very real in my life now.
So, you're not going to be one of the most profound basketball players in the world, huh?
No. Though there is I just learned about some adaptive basketball. I'm gonna check it out.
There you go. Yeah, there is adaptive basketball. There's
There's
wheelchair
adaptive
basketball too.
pickleball too, so I'm checking that out. And I
Pickleball?
just
Oh wow.
pickleball, yeah.
Oh
I
wow.
just started riding a trike, which is really fun.
Uh-huh. That's
Hmm.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
I have a nephew that is now retired and plays a lot of pickleball and loves it,
Hmm.
which is cool. Well, so you got your doctorate in education and so on, and then what did you go do?
I became a dean of students at a small women's college, Mills College in Oakland, California.
Okay. And that's quite a ways from the Midwest.
Yeah, it was far, but I loved it. So I lived in the Bay for 5 years in Oakland.
Did you like Oakland?
I did. I liked it a lot.
Took Bart into San Francisco from time to time, I
Yes,
presume. Yeah.
yes, definitely.
Yeah, Bart's pretty good. I remember my wife, who was in a wheelchair her whole life, had never been on Bart, and
Hmm,
we were up in San Francisco celebrating that we were engaged to be married.
hmm,
And so I said, "Well, let's go take a BART ride." And we found a station right near where we were staying that had an elevator that came up to the street. So we got in the elevator and um we went down to the BART station and went up to the ticket counter, and this guy started talking with us.
hmm,
And it was at night, and there really weren't other people around. But the BART train came in, and he said, "Get on the train." And we said we got on the train, and he talked to us. He monitored us and literally talked to us all the way that we traveled on the BART. And then we came back, and we chatted with him some more, and he even talked with us as we went up in the elevator. It was kind of
hmm,
cool. We thought that there was somebody who took that much of an interest and had the ability to monitor, which was a good thing.
hmm.
It was kind
Yeah.
of fun. So you were in Oakland for 5 years,
Yes.
and with all of the things that you've done, how did growing up in East St. Louis kind of really help? How did that make a difference, do you think, over other places where you might have been?
Well, as I often say, I wouldn't want to have grown up anywhere else. East St. Louis, growing up there was so awesome because it was so community focused. I felt um, very much loved and cared for, and I was told at a very young age that I could do and be anything I wanted to be.
Hmm.
So growing up there gave me the confidence and the sense of connection with people, the importance of community. So no matter where I went, if I didn't have the community when I got there, I made it my business to connect with people.
And so that really clearly helped a lot. So you learned a lot about community from East St. Louis, which
Absolutely.
is important. And I would presume also you developed a pretty good work ethic because you associated with people, including your dad and so on, who must have, I would think, helped shape your work ethic and what you decided to do with your life.
Yes. My father was the first Black man on the parole and pardon board for the state of Illinois. And then he worked as the election commissioner for East St. Louis for 30 years. So very much a public servant.
Mm.
Mhm.
What did that teach you?
The importance of giving back to your community and being civically engaged.
Yeah.
That is your responsibility. It's rent you pay for going through the world.
Well, and I think that's really true that we're responsible for our own actions. There may be things that happen that we don't have control over, but we always have control over how we deal with them,
Yes, absolutely.
which is, kind of important. So you, wow, you had a stroke. You hadn't really dealt with any kind of disability in yourself before that.
No.
Had you had much interaction with or learned much about disabilities before that, or was that kind of
Some
a whole foreign thing to you?
I I mean, it was foreign to be something that I was navigating. I was connected in to some parts of the disability community because my partner does a lot of work with women with disabilities, and she is also a trained, certified sign language interpreter.
Mm.
So done a lot of things with the deaf community. Mhm.
Have you learned how to sign?
No.
You haven't done that yet, huh? There's a a new adventure for you. That's okay. I haven't learned to sign either, but I wouldn't be able to see the people signing anyway, but
Yeah.
that's okay. Well, so um You also talk a lot about this whole concept of radical self care. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's basically radical self-care is prioritizing your taking care of your mind, body, and spirit, not as a secondary thing. But Audre Lorde says, caring for myself is not self-indulgent, it's self-preservation, and that's the act of political warfare.
Hmm.
That's how serious it is. Yeah.
Or at least how serious it should be.
Yes.
Do many people practice it?
I think more and more people are practicing it or understanding it's not a luxury, but it's necessary because you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Yeah. Well, for you, um, you had a stroke. What caused that? Do you have any notion? Was it something to do with the way you cared for yourself, or
No, they can't figure it out.
it was totally unexpected?
It was totally unexpected. I was doing all the things, taking care of myself, eating well, moving my body. Nonetheless, it did not prevent me from having a stroke. So it wasn't
Hmm.
preventative, but the practices that I talk about in my book, Healing the Act of Radical Self-Care, have been such important companions for me going through after post-stroke of having practices like meditation, mindfulness, conscious movement, and emotional liberation. So
Hmm.
I'm so thankful that I didn't start practicing those things um, after the stroke, that I already had a practice of doing them. So I could just start implementing them to be my companion as I go along this journey, which has been very helpful.
When you had the stroke and were diagnosed with it, did they feel that you were going to be less capable than you ended up being, or exactly what happened?
Well, the prognosis, they didn't expect me to have much mobility,
Hmm.
but I have surpassed what they were thinking. I mean, I'm still impacted. My mobility is definitely less than what it was.
Do you walk or do you use a wheelchair now or what?
I am a wheelchair user now,
Uh-huh.
and I can walk I walk sometimes assisted with a cane.
Uh-huh. Well,
My balance is not the same.
yeah, and that's why I was asking whether,
Mhm.
how it works. So you primarily use a wheelchair. Do you use a power chair or a manual chair?
Mostly a manual chair.
You're able
Mhm.
to do that.
Yeah.
My wife did until 2003, but as I said, she used a chair her whole life. And she eventually had to get a power chair because the shoulders were just starting to give out some.
Mm.
Because it is a pretty major thing, especially when you've never had the use of your arms in the way that most people do. So she did pretty
Right.
well, though. So it worked out, but still, it's a it's a major change. So what for you has it done to change kind of your mental outlook and how you view life?
Um, it's reminded me just about how precious life is and how things can change in a minute very quickly.
Right. Well, when did you become a radical self-care evangelist?
I would say I started developing it when when I moved to California in 2007 and got introduced to things like meditation.
Mm,
And because the weather was so beautiful, I would just spend much more time outside walking and hiking and those kinds of things.
yeah.
Hmm.
So now, having had the stroke, obviously you don't walk in the sense the same way, but do you still enjoy and work at spending time outdoors and moving around as well?
Yes, I'm not outside as much. but I still walk. I belong to a national group called Girl Trek, and they sponsor walking challenges a few times a year. I'm in the middle of one right now. They're doing a prayer trek for 10 days.
Mm.
So I so you listen to the podcast and then you walk along with them for like 30 minutes.
Ah,
Really enjoyed that.
it is harder, especially in the winter, to be out as much in Minnesota
I'm
as it
sorry.
is in Oakland.
What was that?
I say it is a little bit tougher to be outside in Minnesota, especially in the winter, as opposed to Oakland, where you could be out more of the whole year. But in Minnesota, you got all the snow and the cold weather, so that probably limits your being outside too, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, still, it is something to work at, and
Yeah.
um, well, do you feel that you can get stronger and that you can continue to improve on where you are with the stroke?
Yes, I have a great deal of faith, and that makes a big difference. So I'm believing that I will have um full restoration,
Uh-huh.
and I'm working towards it. I'll continue to work towards it.
So you have a strong belief in God,
I do.
and that makes a lot of sense. And that will help. But but again, things may not always go as you want them to, but typically there are reasons for that, and it's a matter of really thinking about it and understanding it.
Yeah.
But you can do that, so that's pretty cool. Well, so you think that you'll be able to, though, improve on your ability to walk around and to be mobile?
Yes. And another thing that really helps with that goes back to my singing. So I started singing again. I belong to a chorus called the Amazing Grace Chorus,
Mm-hmm.
which is mostly of elders, but it's very encouraging, like singing all these gospel songs and just reminder that I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Do you since you did opera singing and so on in high school, do you still sing? Do you still look for opportunities to sing?
I still sing some, but actually, that's one of the things with the stroke. My speaking voice came back. My singing voice has not fully come back yet.
Mm.
One of the reasons why I joined the choir and I take voice lessons now again.
Is that helping?
It is helping.
So what kind of things do you sing these days?
Still mostly, I sing a lot of gospel.
Okay.
Hmm.
Not too much opera yet.
No,
Well, nothing wrong with gospel.
no, it's everything right with it. It's so great.
Yeah.
It encourages me. Yes.
Why
Very,
is, oh, go ahead.
very uplifting.
Mm-hmm. Going back to the whole idea of radical self-care, why is radical self-care hard when oppressive systems want us just to be sick and tired? Why is it so hard for a lot of people to really
Because
get
it's
into
like
the whole
swimming against
concept?
the current. It feels easier to just not try to put any effort in something else. You have so many other things that you're battling. It's like, I don't have time for that. But it's like you don't have time not to do it, actually. It actually creates more opportunity for you to do other things because you feel better. You're more present and it helps you to be more connected to people.
What are some
But
of the kind
it
of, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
but it's counterintuitive
In terms of,
in terms of like you would think like if I get a minute, I don't want to practice anything. I just want to sit and be.
hmm well, when you talk about impressive systems that want us to be sick and tired, what do you mean by that?
I mean that um there's not like campaigns for us to take care of ourselves. As a matter of fact, that's kind of poo-poo because if we're exhausted and tired, we'll turn on ourselves and we'll turn on each other.
Hmm
really won't push against the system. So
Where do you think the medical field is in all of this?
um, I think the medical field still wants us to be dependent on pills, and it's a money business, you know.
Hmm.
But I really like to think about self-care as primary care. It
Where
then
do doc?
replaces the need from
Right.
having to so dependent upon all this medical stuff.
Well, if you're looking at it that way, are there still places though for medical science and for doctors?
Yes, there's places it just should, but it shouldn't be the end all be all. It should be complementary, not the thing that keeps us alive.
We shouldn't want to have pills for every little thing that comes along.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
No, when there are things just like fresh air and water and being connected to each other in community, those kinds of things are good for your spirit and your heart and for your heart and your stress level.
Yeah. Well, what made you realize that healing couldn't be postponed after you had a stroke? And I ask that in part because, given what you've described, I would think that you probably understood a lot about healing even before you had the stroke. But
I
what,
did. But then, I think it just underscores the fact that if you don't make time for your wellness, you will make time for your illness. Illness takes up way more time than wellness does.
yeah. Do you think that having gone through the stroke brought you a level of knowledge, though, that you didn't really have before, and that kind of helped raise your conviction of the need to make sure that you heal yourself and that you stay healed? Did that help?
Uh, as I said, I think it like put exclamation marks afterwards of just saying like, oh yeah, this is not optional.
Hmm. But you made the choice to do that, and you could have so easily, I would think, gone the other way. So kudos to you for making the choice to really work and develop a mindset that helped in terms of healing. And I would dare say an unstoppable mindset that helped with dealing with healing and so on.
Yeah, I would say again, I'm very thankful to my higher power who I call God.
Hmm.
My mindset, God said, be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind. So I try to watch what I have going into my mind, what I'm listening to, who I'm connected to that's going to be positive. That makes a big difference. So my mind can get renewed daily.
Hmm. So it must be kind of a challenge to do things like watch all the crazy things that we see on the news and all that.
Yeah, I have to protect myself from that. I have to protect my peace.
Hmm.
I try not to listen to all of that. I try to tend towards the more positive, not burying my head in the sand, but also not being consumed by everything, because that'll make me not want to get up and deal with the world.
Yeah, I watch the news, but I do it to be aware. Um,
Hmm.
but I won't let it overtake me and won't
No,
allow myself to become afraid because of it. Um, because I think it's important to be aware of what's going on.
but I
But
want to be aware, but I don't want to be consumed.
that's right. Exactly. Probably that's the best way to put it. And
Hmm.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
It's
So I
it's the
tend to
usual
do
thing.
more listening to music.
Yeah. Well, it's the
Hmm.
usual thing. There are a lot of things going on in the news. You're not going to have control over them,
No,
but you certainly have control over how you deal with the information, and that's the important
exactly.
part.
Exactly.
And that's what I think so many people don't do. I wrote a book called Live Like a Guide Dog. True
Mhm.
stories from a blind man and his dogs about being brave, overcoming adversity, and moving forward in faith. And one of the strong messages of that book is we what if way too many things. We what if so many things. And then the problem is what if this happens? What if that happens? And none of that's going to really happen. 95% of the things that we worry about never happen. And we don't learn to be aware but not be consumed, as you put it, by those things. We don't learn
Yeah.
that there are a lot of things over which we don't have control, but we do have control over how we deal with them. And
Yes,
allowing fear to come in is a big problem.
it is.
So you listen to music and so on. What do you do primarily to deal with fear when you sense that you're becoming fearful or having kind of a mental crisis like that?
I think that's what you just said. One of my biggest coping mechanisms is music
Mm-hmm.
because it speaks to my heart and it gets me moving, gets me out of my head,
Mm-hmm.
lifts my spirits. I also make sure that I connect with other people because isolation is deadly.
Yeah. Yeah. We're we're not really programmed to be alone.
No, we're herd animals, really.
And we shouldn't try to be alone. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
reality is like um, I mentioned, Live Like a Guide Dog. I've written 3 books, and I collaborated on all 3 of them, and I find that I learned a lot and
Mm-hmm.
and gained a lot of value by working with someone else and writing the books. We both
Yes.
participated very fully in writing with them, and that was pretty cool.
I also try to spend a lot of time with young people.
Uh-huh.
They keep me laughing.
And
And
they should.
yes, I have few I consider myself to be a community auntie. So, lots of folks, lots of young ones call me Auntie Joy. And I try to get
Mm.
in as much time with them as possible.
There's a lot to be said for that.
Yes.
Um,
Makes a big difference. They're my big mentors.
yeah, we can learn a lot from
Yes.
young people who don't have all these cares and worries, and we can only hope that they'll never get them, that they'll learn that they
Yes.
are much better off not worrying about so many things.
I had some friends who came over and they brought over 3 pumpkins. So I reached out to my young friends to see if they could come and help me decorate them.
Mm.
So doing things like that will be really fun.
Every year at Christmas, when my wife was alive, actually before we moved here, but we used to hold what we called a Christmas tree upping. So we provided the food and we provided the decorations, and we've invited all of our friends to come over and do the actual decorating because she doesn't reach very high to decorate, and I am not the greatest decorator in the world. And we had
Hmm.
so much fun every year when people came over. Sometimes they went crazy. I remember one year we even had people put garland in the shower, which was a little bit unique, but that was
Yeah,
still fun.
yeah, it's
Who,
fun.
yeah, who's complaining, right? It was a lot
Right.
of fun.
It's
But
fun to get with people, to be connected in community.
yeah, yeah, it
Makes
really
all the
is.
difference.
It really is so valuable to meet people and learn and associate. I every time I travel through an airport, when I go off and I travel and speak, um, one of my goals in life is to always make the TSA people laugh because their job is so thankless. They
Yes,
don't get
hard job.
appreciated, So I get up to the desk and they say, "May I have your ID?" And so my immediate response is, "What did you do? Lose yours?" Oh, most all of them laugh at that. Of course, during the pandemic, they said, "Well, I need your ID," and I'll give it to them. And I say, "So what good is that going to do you? I got a mask on." "Well, you have to take off your
Right.
mask." "Well, the rules are you're not supposed to take off your mask. Can't have it both ways." It's just fun, to get them to laugh
Yep,
because they just don't get that much of it, and so it's
that's
always
right.
fun to do that.
And I always say everybody's going through something that you don't even know what people may be going through. So
Right.
just be kind and thoughtful as you can.
Yeah, and getting people to laugh is always such a joy, as it were, and it's so important to be able to do that. Um, and so it's fun. And they always want to search my guide dog because he's got a metal, his harness has got metal in it, And the other
Yeah.
thing, and when they say they got to search the dog, I say, well, we got to talk about that. And they go, oh, what's the problem? And so, well, no problem. It's just that he likes long searches. You got to search for a half hour. You got to really check him out thoroughly for a half hour. Otherwise, he gets unhappy. And of course, his tail's wagging 1,000 miles a second. Um, then they figure it out and they laugh. But he gets lots of extra scratches that way. So he's happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So tell me, what is the orange method and how does it provide a pathway to liberation and betterment?
Yeah. So the orange method is the process that I created, the orange method for radical self-care and healing. And it has four practices: meditation, which is about getting grounded; mindfulness, which is about getting present; emotional liberation, which is about getting free; and conscious movement, which is about getting moving. So all of these practices just encourage you to move along the pathway in some way, to have them as practices, not as destinations, but as things that you can include in it, integrate into your life.
Uh-huh. Well, tell us more about that.
As I was saying, it the orange method, when something upsetting happens or life is just lifing, then I use it and encourage people to stop and pause, and look at the practices. Have I done any of these or can I engage in them? The pause, getting grounded, is um, one of the most important things we can do, which is to stop and breathe and do a reset. You can do that. That's available to you at any time.
Okay. So you get people to stop and to try to do a reset and then what?
Um, it invites, I think, that's to be curious about what else might be possible instead of just like giving up or getting upset or like running into a brick wall. The pause creates some spaciousness, and who knows what might come up.
Do you encourage people to do and get into the habit of doing meditation?
Yes, but one thing I want to say about meditation is that it's been so commercialized that
Mm-hmm.
one might think, I don't have time to meditate. And I would say you don't have time not to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to go off. It's nice to be able to go off to a retreat and meditate. But meditation is simply just breathing and concentrating and being present in the moment. So you have time. Just it doesn't have to be. And people say my mind won't stop racing. I can't quiet my mind. It's okay. You don't have to quiet your mind. Um, Maybe it's trying to tell you something. Just give it the attention it needs, and eventually those thoughts will go away.
Yeah,
But
that go ahead.
but yeah, just give it a minute.
Yeah, that is the issue. The fact is you can learn to quiet your mind, but it takes some work and it takes understanding what that really means. But the fact is we can do it. Typically the people who say so much, I can't quiet my mind. I'm always thinking about this, I'm always thinking about that. You, you wonder what it is that is the underlying fear, the underlying thing that they haven't learned to focus on to stop themselves from constantly going through this treacherous kind of, well, I can't stop.
Well, I just want to say that it's if your mind won't stop, it might just need to go through that cycle. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to. The biggest thing, biggest tragedy about meditation is just not taking the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no perfect way. Don't buy into that there's a perfect way to do it. You get the benefit by just doing it.
Yep.
Even if it's imperfect, it's okay.
Well, and the more of it you do, the more you'll find that you can do.
Yeah.
I remember in college, I took a transcendental meditation course, which I valued, and I've learned so much more since then about different ways of doing meditation, but it does ultimately come back down to you learn to listen to your inner voice, to that God inside of you,
Yes.
which is what it's really all about.
But it's about building a relationship. You're not going to listen to somebody you don't have a relationship with, so you have to take time to build it
Right? How do you do that?
by practicing. Um, and the more that you sit and you listen and you breathe into it, it's going to become more and more familiar. You're building a relationship.
Right. Well, that's of course is the real point. And the most important thing to develop a relationship with is yourself, especially your inner
Correct.
self,
Right.
which doesn't mean you don't develop relationships outside of yourself, but you really need to
You
learn
definitely
to
have to
develop that
develop more with
relationship.
yourself. Well, which means you have to spend time with yourself,
Right.
undistracted.
Yeah. And as you point out, you really can't afford not to do that. You should do that.
Yeah,
It's amazing what you learn when you do that.
it's very true.
So what's one practice that people could undertake today to kind of help calm their nervous system? What's one specific suggestion that you might offer people?
One of my favorite is hand over heart meditation. Just take your right hand and place it over your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Just take a minute and breathe. And just by touching, putting your hand over your heart, your whole entire central nervous system will begin to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also add in an affirmation. One of my favorite affirmations is, I am amazing, I'm awesome, and I'm brilliant. So you can add that in and just begin to quiet the chatter. Start saying these things on repeat. It'll become a default.
Exactly
So
right.
hand over heart meditation.
Right. Well, exactly right. And again, the more of it you do, the easier it becomes
Yeah.
and the more comfortable you are with it.
Yes, and the more you do it, as you start responding to things and by putting your hand over your heart and breathing, our bodies and minds are so smart. There'll be times you don't even have to put your hand over your heart. Your
Right.
eye will just catch out the side of your view that your hand is trying to come towards your heart, and it'll start calming down
Right.
because it's just you have built that pathway, neuroplasticity.
Ah, okay. Well, that makes perfect sense.
hmm It'll be like, oh,
Again,
here comes the hand. I can calm down.
yeah. Again, it is making the choice to do it.
Yes,
That's,
the decision.
I don't know if that's hard, but that's probably the hardest thing to do because people are so used to not doing that.
It's not easy, but it's simple. And I
Yeah.
feel like keep it simple.
Yeah. Which makes perfect sense.
You don't have to complicate it.
So, um, are you still working in higher education today?
No, I am not. I now have a coaching and consulting firm, Joy Unlimited. And I also am the president of the Healing Justice Foundation, a nonprofit organization which provides healing support for the Black community.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't worked in higher ed since 2014.
And the stroke finally caught up with you because of that, huh? I'm just
Um,
trying to make you laugh. No,
mhm.
it's so you left and you started Joy Unlimited. What
Yeah,
took you out of education? Why did you decide to change?
there was so much stress and so much
Mm,
racism I was dealing with inside the academy. I was like,
mm,
this is for me.
yeah.
Left. And it was right at the time when um Michael Brown was murdered in
Mm,
Ferguson, Missouri. Um, and the Black Lives Matter movement was really growing. So I started doing a lot of um healing circles in community. And I felt really called into this work.
Hmm. Do you go beyond working with people who are black, or do you focus and feel that it's better to keep that niche?
Um, so my work is grounded in Black liberation, but
Okay.
I work with people from all different cultural backgrounds.
Okay. And that's fair. Just
Hmm.
was kind of curious though. So how did the you had a very long career though in education. How did that affect and kind of shape what you do today?
Well, because I was working on college campuses with people from all over the world, there were sometimes folks who did not connect with each other because they had different ways of viewing the world. So it gave me a lot of practice in how to be able to hold space. And I say one of the gifts that I have is giving people to each other.
Hmm.
And a lot of that I learned in higher ed, helping people who thought that they didn't have anything in common to actually be able to sit down and have connections with each other.
Hmm. And that's certainly one of the things that we need a whole lot more of because the
Yes,
reality is that
particularly now.
we
Yes,
yeah, yeah. And that does go across races and it goes across so many different kind of so-called boundaries, but the reality is we do need to learn to work together and
we need each other.
we need each other. Yeah.
Yes.
One of the things that you say is that every person is amazing, awesome, and brilliant. What does that mean to you and why is that important?
It's important because um, if we start from that place to just know that that's really what's true about every human being, then I can be curious about connecting with you instead of thinking all these negative things about somebody who might be different than me.
Hmm.
If I can start from a place of this person is amazing, awesome, and brilliant, let me be curious. What can I learn from Michael? What can I learn about them and connect? It's a much more beautiful place to start at.
Goes back to really wanting to learn and get to know people more, doesn't it?
Yes. And it helps us to reconnect to our own humanity and to each other's. And that's really what this is all about. It's been a lot of our humanity has been shattered over lots of things. That's not how we walk around broken like that. When we start from this other place, instead of pushing people away, we're reaching for them.
How do we get people to work toward developing stronger senses of trust and learning to at least explore the possibility of trusting other people more than we have today? How do we break that cycle?
I say about just being curious, and people say I don't trust. It's like I can trust anybody. It's just I'm trust you with different things. Some people I can trust with a pencil. Some people I can trust with my heart.
Hmm.
I don't have to give everybody everything. You decide what makes sense to trust people with. Everybody isn't trustworthy for everything.
Right.
There's something that they might be able to be trusted with. Can you hold my pencil?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, the other aspect of that is that trust is something that has to be earned, and it is something that we oftentimes don't feel that we're earning from other people or that they're getting
It
it from
requires
us.
building a relationship. It takes time. It's not just something that just happens overnight. It takes time.
It takes being open to trust.
Hmm.
One of the things that I talk about and Live Like a Guide Dog, and I've talked about it here on the podcast, is the difference between us and dogs, for example, primarily unless a dog is incredibly traumatized, is that dogs don't trust unconditionally, but they're open to trust. And we, because of everything that we've allowed to affect us from around us, makes us not be open to trust. And that's unfortunate because I think we're missing out on so much when we do that.
Yeah. That's why I
So,
say start with curiosity.
yeah,
Let me just be curious.
yeah, it's much more fun. And you never
Hmm.
know what you'll learn, which is part of
Right.
the adventure.
Exactly.
So, tell me about the concept of an energy bank in your work.
So the energy bank, what I say is that, I like to take concepts like capitalism and turn them on their heads. That what are things that draw my energy or that people's energy or can be increased. So one of the things I would encourage people to do is to write down the names of three people who, when you spend time with them, you feel amazing, awesome, and brilliant. Okay, get that list. And the only thing I would say about the three people, don't put anybody down who you feel obligated to do it. This is your own list.
Hmm.
So if the requirement is only that when you spend time with them, you feel amazing, awesome, and brilliant. So don't put people down because you feel like you have to, like, I better put down my spouse. No, not on this list. Not unless they fit the other criteria of making you feel amazing, awesome, brilliant. If not, they don't get to be on this list. And then also put down three activities that when you spend time doing them, you feel amazing, awesome, and brilliant. And again, I want you to put down things, not that you have to do, um, but that, I mean, not things that you're obligated to do, but on this list, do put down things you have to, because if you don't have to do it, I'm gonna free you real quick. Then don't put it on your list. Then don't do it.
Goes back to listening to your heart, doesn't it?
Yep. And so this is how you build up NG bank. They become these things become deposits. If you find that I feel really exhausted and tired, I would encourage people to look at your list and be like, okay, let me look and see. When's the last time I spent time with any of these three people that are on my list? Let me see if I can get some time with them. That's gonna fill you up.
Right.
Or spending some time in on doing the activities that you really love. That's gonna fill you up. That's how you, like, it's these things you are banking, you are depositing these positive things, and it can compound very quickly.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you are simply writing bad checks because you don't have enough energy in your bank.
Yeah.
And I know people don't really write checks now, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be overdrawn.
Yeah.
But a lot of us walking around overdrawn because you don't know what fills you up.
Right. I hear you. Well, so you have a family. Tell us about your family.
Yes, so I have an amazing family. My current family right now is me and my partner of 23 years. And she's amazing and has been so great through this season of me getting healed.
Hmm.
Um, and we have a fur baby, Mango, orange tabby,
Ah,
and he thinks that the world centers around him. It kind of does.
well, of course it does. He's a cat. Just ask him.
Yep, he's like, enough about me. What do you think about me?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I have my family of origin. I have two sisters. I have an older sister and a younger sister, and I have two brothers. Um,
Okay.
Unfortunately, they don't live here. We live far from each other. They still live in the East St. Louis area. My oldest brother lives in the DC area. My favorite role in my life is being an auntie, and I have several nieces and nephews. One of my nieces, fortunately, only lives like 30 minutes from me. She's a graduating senior at McAllister College.
Mm-hmm.
And I have what you call fictive kinship. I have so many folks in the community that I am close to. I kind of call everybody my cousin.
Yeah.
I have a lot of cousins.
Well, that's cool.
Hmm.
What for you has been kind of the most rewarding work experience, most unexpected rewarding experience you've had in work?
When I worked at McAllister College in the late 19, I came to McAllister in 1999. Um, and it was a small college here in Minnesota,
Mm,
but I ended up um, getting to work with um, three other individuals who have become like my family. We call each other cousins. Um, and it would be so fun just to show up and go to work. We couldn't work to get there because we would laugh, and also the students were amazing. Students were at McAllister were literally from all over the world.
mm,
I would have to start my day by reading the international section of the newspaper. Otherwise, I was lost.
mm. What caused you to move to Minnesota, as opposed to going back to East St. Louis?
I was recruited to a job to work at the University of Minnesota when I was at Penn
Ah,
State. So that's
okay.
how I got here. Hmm.
That makes sense. Well, this has been fun. Can you believe we've been doing this for an hour?
No, but it's been great to meet you, Mike.
It's been fun. Well, if people want to reach out to you since you are a coach and can help and so on, how do they do that?
The best way is to go to my website, Joi, unlimited.com.
Okay. And all the
And
contact information is
yeah,
there, and
everything is there.
joyunlimited.com, and it's JOI. So,
Joi.
yeah. So cool. Well, I hope people will reach out. I hope that
Yes.
that people got some good thoughts and ideas today and got some advice that will help them. But I really appreciate you doing that. And I want to
Don't
thank all
forget
of
to
you.
take a moment and pause, folks, and
Yep.
breathe. Mm, Give
It,
yourself a gift as much as possible.
there you go. Well, I want to thank you again for being here, but I want to thank all of you for listening and take time
Yes.
to pause and to think and
Remember,
the
you are
world's not,
amazing, awesome, and brilliant.
and the world isn't going to pass you by, so it won't
No,
hurt
it's
you to do
okay.
it.
You're
Yeah,
worth waiting on.
that's it. So I'd love to hear what you think. So feel free, any of you out there, to email me at Michael H I M I C H A E L H I at accessibe ACCESSIBE.com. Love it if wherever you're listening or watching the podcast, if you would give us a review, a 5-star review, and if you will rate us with a rating, that would be helpful. And for
Yes.
all of you, including you, Joy, if you know anyone who you think ought to be a guest on Unstoppable Mindset, I would really appreciate introductions. We value that very highly, and we will respond to anyone that reaches out. So please feel free. But again, Joy, I just want to thank you for being here. This has been so much fun today. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. So now
Sending
what are
you
you?
all the love your heart can hold.
There you go. So thank you again, and you have a blessed afternoon, okay?
Hey, you too.
If you're ready to go deeper into the ideas that shape how we see ourselves and others, I have a free gift for you. Head over to michaelhingson.com and download my free ebook, Blinded by Fear. Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep choosing to live with an unstoppable mindset.